Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to Cultivating Equity for Thriving Communities. This is day 3 of the 2024 ISLES Virtual Forum. Today's sessions are all focused around transportation. My name is Ben Haygood, and I'm the Policy Director here at ISLES. Before we get started, we'd first want to acknowledge and thank our sponsor. NJM Insurance is today's daily sponsor. Thank you to NJM for making this day possible and free to all participants. Our panel sponsor for this session is NRG. Thanks to NRG for all of their support. This session is part of our 4th annual virtual forum, a series of webinars and panels that explore themes of equity through the lenses of environmental health, building wealth, transportation, and accessibility, and innovative approaches to violence prevention and reduction. This forum is free and open to the public as part of ISLE's goal to learn, share, and innovate in Trenton and beyond. To learn more or sign up for additional sessions, visit isles.org/forum. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. First, if you have any questions during the session, please click the Q&A button on the bottom of the screen and enter them at any time. I and a few of the other people here on the screen will be collecting those questions, and we'll save a few minutes at the end to answer them. But in addition to that, we'll also have a discussion session at the end of the webinar, and we'll be able to join and have a direct conversation and interact directly with the panelists and other participants. We'll drop that link into the chat at the end of the regular session, and you can join from the link discussion session in the lobby as well. Second, we are recording this session, and we'll make it available along with any slides on our forum homepage at isles.org/forum. Okay, let's jump right in. I'm going to introduce our moderator for the panel, and then he's going to take it from there. Matthew Lawson is Assistant Planning Director in the County of Mercer. Matt has served as Transportation Planner for Mercer County since 2004. His projects have included updating the county master plan with complete streets and access management policies and leading the county implementation of a highway asset management system, facilitating transportation funding and planning projects, planning for transit-oriented land development, and developing long-range plans for bicycle and transit improvements. Matt, thank you for joining us. Take it away.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Again, Matthew Lawson, and 20 years here, but I've got 20 years before that pursuing tenure in academia as a sociologist, and very much interested in urban inequality, interested in taking this job as a way to help the disadvantaged citizens of the city of Trenton get to jobs and basically to provide equity. I'm really excited about this session because it ties into a lot of the work that I've done over the last 20 years as a transportation planner for the county. What you will do is you will join us in a conversation. We've had some time together basically to introduce each other and talk about the perspectives that we bring, but we haven't really gotten into the conversation. And that's what's exciting to me. We have some great speakers today, some people with some real expertise, and I'm going to go through a little bit of their biographies as a way of starting the session, and then here's some presentations, hear what they have to say, and get into the conversation. And I hope you can join us after the 10 o'clock hour for a wider conversation where you can join the panelists. So Tandi Nyambose is an urban planner with a background in public health, transportation, and infrastructure. She is a manager for the Circuit, which is the electric vehicle shuttle provider for the city of Trenton, which ISLES is contracting and providing to the city. So she's got some experience previously with Bird's electric micro-mobility scooters, and launched the first electric scooter program in the East Bronx in New York City. She's got a degree in urban planning from the Harvard Graduate School of Design. Second, we'll hear from Chuck Feinberg. Chuck is the executive director of the New Jersey Green Cities Coalition, which is the only statewide entity focused exclusively on developing and implementing public-private partnerships to reduce the use of petroleum in the transportation sector. So Chuck is directly involved in the kinds of things that we're talking about here today. He's also a partner in the sustainability consulting firm Greener by Design. And before launching these efforts, he was the chief of environmental programs for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, North Atlantic Division. He's got a bachelor's in civil engineering and he's also got a law degree from NYU. Then finally, we will hear from Cheryl Kastronakis. Cheryl is the executive director of the Greater Mercer Transportation Management Association, the TMA. Cheryl is one of my closest planning partners. The TMA is federally funded with the goal of getting people out of single occupancy vehicles. And Cheryl has been really, really important for advancing transportation and transit opportunities for disadvantaged people in Mercer County. The TMA runs Ride Provide, which provides rides for seniors and visually impaired adults across the county and also outside of the county in Plainsboro and Montgomery Township. She also was the conductor, the orchestrator. She helped put together a transit service to the warehouse developments out in Robbinsville Township, the Z Line, and had New Jersey Transit reorganize its bus schedules so that they could coordinate and meet with the Z Line schedule to get people to work at those remote locations. She's also, on behalf of the Mercer County, managing a JARC, Job Access and Reverse Commute program, the Route 130 connection, which is also a transit route that gets people from the city of Trenton out to warehouse jobs out in Montgomery or in Monmouth County. So that's our panel. I want to start with Tandi. And Tandi, let me just say a little bit about what's important to me as a planner that got us here. So as an urban planner, one of the things that I think of myself as doing is finding out how to get things done. And we are constrained by our past. And the past for transit in Mercer County has a long history. We had a wonderful trolley system, electric trolleys, horse-drawn, before that on rail. And that evolved into, with the highway age, the replacement of those trolley systems with bus lines that were mainly designed to follow those trolley routes to get people out of the city or between population centers, between Trenton and Princeton, out to the jobs, industrial jobs in Ewing Township, up into West Windsor. There was a variety of trolley lines, a variety of bus lines that radiate out from the city of Trenton. Those bus lines were consolidated and run by the county of Mercer until 1984. In 1984, the Mercer County bus system was incorporated into New Jersey Transit. And disappointing to me, I've made some efforts, but disappointing to me, those radial routes still serve, but they don't serve very well. They don't get people to the jobs as effectively as they were intended to, because the highway network and suburbanization have spread those jobs all over the place. They've spread them out to Robbinsville and Middlesex counties for the warehouse development. They've spread them out to suburban locations and sometimes remote corporate office centers that are just very, very hard to get to by transit. And that's almost by design on the part of some of these corporations. They want people to be able to drive. So one of the efforts that I've pushed for is to try to support the TMA, support other organizations that are providing workforce transportation. Workforce transportation is part of a whole array of community human service transportation systems. The TMA's Ride Provide is one of those. Mercer County has a trade transportation resources to aid the disabled and elderly. So this is a demand response system like Ride Provide is, where people call in and schedule a ride. They get picked up near their door or at their door and delivered to where they want to go. It's complicated, it's expensive. We're running big vehicles, at least for trade. So the more recent development, and what's exciting here, is that New Jersey DEP, ILES, and the city of Trenton put in for a grant to create an electric vehicle shuttle system to serve the people of Trenton. And the result of that is Go Trenton, which Tandi will talk about. I'm interested in how that service, with its limited scope right now, may integrate with and benefit from or mutually reinforce not only New Jersey Transit's regional bus system, but also Mercer County Trade and Ride Provide. How do these systems operate together? So Tandi, I'm hoping that you can step in and talk a little bit about Circuit and how Circuit has evolved in the city of Trenton, ridership trends and things like that, and what the future may hold.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for putting this all into context within the city. I have prepared a deck of slides which should speak to most of what you just said. I'm going to begin with just a brief background of how Circuit came to be, what we do, because we operate in other places besides Trenton, and then really zoom into how the Go Trenton program has evolved and what it's looking like now as we approach almost a year of operation. So Circuit was born out of the very simple idea that we need to get people out of their cars, particularly for short distance rides. And I'm sure most of you that are attending this session are familiar with the concept that the overuse of single occupancy vehicles is not great for cities. And by single occupancy vehicle, I mean any privately owned vehicle whose only occupant is the driver. And here are just a few of the host of negative effects that these have. So over 3/4 of Americans drive alone to work. Congestion per year has a huge cost in this country. And then perhaps the most shocking is over 1/3 of vehicle trips that people make in the US are under just 2 miles. So what are other options for traveling, particularly through urban areas? One that's received quite a bit of buzz recently is autonomous vehicles. Very exciting, but not quite cost effective just yet. There are also ride-hailing companies, mainly Uber and Lyft, which are also great, but ultimately can increase traffic in cities quite a bit. There are scooters and bikes, so micromobility, another great solution, a little bit limited as far as accessibility for everybody. And then, of course, there's the fixed route options that you mentioned, that buses, trolleys, trains, which we all love and use, but may not reach all areas. So that's where Circuit comes in. How can we kind of plug these gaps and move people in short distances without being expensive and pollutive?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. So Circuit is proud to provide a turnkey solution. And by turnkey, I mean that Circuit and the team step in and provide these electric micro shuttle services. We supply the vehicles. We source local drivers. So these are W-2 employees who live and work in the communities that we're operating in. And in some cases, we even install our own publicly available charging infrastructure. And this all comes ready to operate in these cities with the hope of not adding to congestion and air pollution. And this cost-effective model really aligns with how residents that we've polled want to get around these cities, where we're providing convenient, affordable connections for short trips. And we're also, which I will elaborate on in a moment, enabling residents to access opportunities. I wanted to quickly provide a visual of where else we're operating. I am our Northeast Project and Partnerships Manager, so that's where I work, but we also have many services in California and Florida and a few other countries as well. So right now we're at over 40 locations. Some are more seasonal beach markets, such as Plymouth, Mass, and then we have this other use case in major cities like DC. We have Trenton, where our service is operating year-round. And many of these more urban locations, we've recently launched a program in the Rockaways, and of course Trenton, are disproportionately impacted by the health effects of air pollution and sometimes by climate change as well. I also wanted to mention that the service started as a fully ad-supported model. So we were wrapping these vehicles in ads with our partners, but we now receive payment through municipal contracts in cities like New York, New Rochelle, San Diego, and then in turn share a portion of this revenue with the municipality and transit partners. So we're hoping to expand, particularly in the Northeast. And now I think we can pivot a little bit and get into Go Trenton. So as I mentioned, we're getting close to a year. We officially launched in the fall of 2023. And of course, this is a collaborative effort that was really born by ISLES as well as state and local partners to bring reliable, affordable transportation to the Trenton community. So you can see the screenshot in the center of the screen. The service operates through an app. It's called Ride Circuit, and this allows Trenton residents to request a ride from a fleet of electric cars driven by professional drivers. So anywhere within that, coverage area, you can request a ride. It's very exciting to me that this is the first all-electric shuttle service in the state, and we're hoping that this is scalable and can serve almost as a blueprint for operating similar programs in other New Jersey cities. I also want to mention how much the community stakeholders have informed this project. So there was close to a year of planning that went into this to design this service, from coverage area that you see here to fleet breakdown, made specifically for Trenton and for those who would use the service the most. So since that September launch, Circuit has been incredibly popular in Trenton. We're now averaging at over 2,000 rides taken per month, which I will share a little bit more about on the next slide. But as far as the coverage area, I wanted to just define what these little green points are. These are where riders can request to be picked up or dropped off. And these are not arbitrary locations. These are at locations that were, again, picked out by the stakeholders. So grocery stores, senior centers, healthcare facilities, schools, and at the top right of the screen, you'll see ISLES headquarters out there. And the service we designed, it's always iterative. I think we learn as we operate, but we started with 4 gems, which I will provide a photo of in a moment. These are neighborhood electric vehicles, and they have capacity for 5 passengers. And we are just on the cusp of introducing 2 vans, which have a much larger capacity, again, all electric. And these are going to have a different focus than the Trenton gems that are operating in this coverage area. These will be workforce development vans, taking people out from the Spencer downtown core out to some of the jobs that Matthew mentioned. Another important point is that the program is currently free. This was always the intention to launch for free, and there may be a fare, but it would never be over $2, and that is a fixed fare for anywhere within the coverage area. Before we do that, there would definitely be a host of different marketing and rider communications to ease people into that. The reason that we do operate with fares is, of course, there's a small amount of revenue that contributes to the sustainability of the service, but it's also a great tool for managing efficiency and demand, meaning that if you have $2 on the line when you request a ride, you're less likely to change your mind and cancel it, which then affects the routing of all of our drivers because all of the rides are pooled. All right, getting into rider metrics. Our average rider age is 33, and we've seen a really nice distribution of all different types of riders. And though our app doesn't collect that much demographic information, just for privacy's sake, we do have the option to send out surveys, and I think these are a really great way to get rich data about who's using the services and why, and then share it with our community partners. Zooming through, As I mentioned, we're at over 2K rides a month, which is great and growing, as you can see in the visual here. Our drivers are receiving really great responses. We're at a 4.86 average driver rating. I mentioned earlier that we hire locally, and I think this goes a long way. These are people who know the community. It's also such a small program compared to an Uber and a Lyft, where you call one of those, you almost never get the same driver. Versus in some of our markets, we have, for example, seniors who need to go somewhere every Wednesday, and when they call that Wednesday, they get the same driver, and so they're able to cultivate relationships with these people in a way that's really meaningful. So here you can see the ridership versus passengers. Again, the passengers are orange, ridership is green. This is because, I think that's reversed. That is reversed. Passengers are green and rides are orange because all rides are pooled. So there will always be more passengers than rides because you are able to request a ride for not just yourself, but up to 5 people. All right. I know I emphasized that the service is aligned around identified community needs, and I'm not going to go through and read every stop to you, but I did pull the top 10 destinations where our riders have been dropped off. This is all fluctuating by the season, even by the month, but this is a pretty remarkable trend. Though the program focuses on, connections to local jobs, regional rail, the top destinations right now are the Trenton Area Soup Kitchen, the Trenton Transit Center, and the Fast and Fresh grocery store. So I think this is really telling about that the service is achieving its goal of providing connectivity to people who just need to meet basic needs, don't want to walk there, don't want to call an expensive ride share, and maybe the bus does not go directly from their home to that location. All right, getting to the end here. This is the electric passenger van on the left. It has ADA configurations, which I wanted to touch upon quickly. This means that if you're using a wheelchair, you can request a ride in the app. And these are set to join the Trenton fleet in a matter of weeks. So this is really exciting. They do have better battery range than the GEM vehicles on the right, which means they can last a bit longer throughout the day, and don't need to be as charged as often. And then they also have branding opportunities. So that's what I was referring to when I mentioned ad revenue. Sometimes it's local businesses, sometimes it's national brands who want to reach the communities that we're operating in by wrapping our vehicles in their marketing. On the right, you can see the GEM. It's a very adorable vehicle. And the nice thing about it is that everybody gets their own door. So you really have this personal ride experience. They cannot go as fast as a van or a sedan. They are legal on roads under 35 miles per hour. But this works really well, again, for these denser downtowns where you're not needing to zoom at all, whereas the van will be going on some larger roads outside of the city when it brings people to those job destinations. So this is the end of my slides. Really interested to hear all of your questions. I think I'll just end on the note that Circuit is committed to offering eco-friendly, on-demand options and really invigorate communities as part of Go Trenton. And we're really happy to be working in Mercer County to improve the ability of residents without private vehicles to easily access better jobs, nutritious food, healthcare, and services. So thank you.
Wow, Tandy, that was fantastic. And I'm so glad to have learned a lot more about Go Trenton. I don't have much to say. I'm here just to moderate a conversation. I'm eager to extend that conversation by hearing from Chuck Feinberg. Chuck, in terms of public-private partnerships to reduce the use of petroleum, it sounds like Circuit is right up your alley.
Circuit is absolutely right up my alley. And, I've had the pleasure and frankly, sometimes it wasn't so much of a pleasure, but I've been serving as a technical advisor to Isles and working very closely with Ben over the last several years to get the Go Trenton program together and to get funding in place and to overcome some technical issues with the charging stations and with the vehicles themselves. So I'm absolutely thrilled to see this in operation, and I hope we can turn it into something that's sustainable and expand it to the entire city of Trenton and the region, and hopefully replicate it in other towns across the state. So that's our next goal. So the success of what's happening now is just incredible and very welcome to see. But it just shows how much of a need there was and continues to be. So let's keep it going. But Ben, go ahead. You can go to the next slide. So as stated, I'm the executive director of the New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition. I don't know if the slides are advancing. I'm not seeing them.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to advance. I'll keep trying.
Okay. So anyway, the Clean Cities program, we are an independent 501c3 nonprofit. We are partners with the U.S. Department of Energy Clean Cities and Communities program. And that is a program that's actually run out of the Vehicle Technologies Office of the Department of Energy. And the gist of it, it's all about the reduction of petroleum in the transportation sector. And unlike many federal programs where it's a top-down approach, where, if you want to take money from the federal government through a grant or a contract like that, you have to do what they tell you to do. This is essentially seed funding that goes to locally based coalitions across the country to work with their communities. Thank you, Ben. To put these coalitions together. There we go. To put partnerships together that would look for solutions that work in your locality. So there are about 85 coalitions across the country. We are the only one in New Jersey, and as mentioned, we're an independent nonprofit. But the whole purpose of the coalitions is to bring local stakeholders together to collaborate and to seek and to deploy ways to reduce petroleum. So we do that in a number of ways, but mostly it's about pulling together all the various stakeholders and strengthening the markets for alternative fuels and trip elimination, idle reduction, all of those types of programs that tend to reduce petroleum. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, the New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition is the only statewide organization in New Jersey that is exclusively focused on all solutions that lead to the reduction of petroleum. So we provide a lot of education and outreach, but we also put public-private partnerships together to actually seek funding to actually deploy these projects. Next slide. Here's a list of some of our members. You could see it's a cross section of various players in the market, from consultants to fuel providers to fleet managers to municipalities, public agencies, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide. And as mentioned, our portfolio covers the full range of vehicles. Until recently, there was not a whole lot of options for light-duty vehicles, but obviously with electrification now, that's a big piece of our portfolio. But we also work very closely with medium and heavy-duty vehicles to find solutions and to help implement solutions that reduce petroleum use in those types of vehicles. And we do it with alternative fuels and renewable fuels, work with folks to get the appropriate infrastructure in place and provide the right education to the fleet managers and the drivers and the users and the whole range of stakeholders. We also work with anti-idling programs. The best best way to reduce petroleum is to not waste it, and idling in most cases is a tremendous waste of petroleum and any fuel for that matter. And we also work with equitable energy efficient mobility systems. So Tandi mentioned autonomous vehicles. There's a whole range of solutions that are, in their infancy now for connected vehicles and vehicles communicating with each other that will also reduce the use of fuel. Next slide. The Clean Cities program at the Department of Energy is kind of in the center of it all. Unlike most Department of Energy programs, this is not about research and development. This is actually about deployment of these technologies. So the Clean Cities coalitions themselves are at the center of all of this. We have direct access to all kinds of information and tools for planning tools, modeling, different fuels, different operational uses, whether it's at the local level or for a big national fleet or anything in between. We have technical assistance resources. So if there are particular technical issues involved in your journey to come to petroleum reduction, we have Tiger teams that could come in and look, and if these issues that you might be facing are if they've occurred elsewhere across the country, we will know that, and we have experts from national labs and all over the country that have likely faced the issue and can help solve it. We also do a lot of training and outreach and various partnerships. We're proud to have partnered with ILES over the last several years on the Go Trenton program, and we're looking at some other programs together. This webinar this morning is an example of the outreach that we do. And of course, we get very popular when the federal government has funding opportunities. And right now we are thrilled to have a tremendous number of these programs available through the Department of Energy, through the EPA, through the Federal Department of Transportation. And often private entities are not eligible for these types of programs. They have to go through a nonprofit such as Clean Cities. And we have tremendous experience in dealing with these programs. So even if you are an eligible entity, you might not have the organizational resources to put it all together appropriately and manage it. So it's another area that we can help out with. Next slide. We're proud to say one of the things that we do have to submit to the DOE on an annual basis is the petroleum displacement of our stakeholders. So we seek to collect this information from pretty much across the board in New Jersey of everybody that is taking different methods, different opportunities to reduce petroleum. And we're proud to say that last year, 2023, we had almost 15 million gallons of petroleum were displaced with the activities of our stakeholders. And that's an increase from 13 million the previous year. But one thing that I really want to note is I think you could see the colors here. You could see that the electric and plug-in vehicle block of 2023 has really significantly increased from previous years. And you see that that line didn't even appear on this chart until 2020. So that is going to continue to increase. And in conjunction with that, the greenhouse gas reduction that's attributed to these gallons of petroleum displacement are also significantly increasing. So we're very proud of that. And it's a big effort to collect these numbers. So if you do have numbers to report, please let us know. Next slide. One of the programs that we work with, I know, there's a lot of people in Trenton and the region that do not have vehicles. And I know that there are also efforts to reduce the number of vehicles on the road. And obviously, we fully support those efforts. But for those people that do have vehicles and insist on keeping them, we're all about electrifying those vehicles. And one of the equitable solutions to electrification is the encouragement of workplace charging. These are charging stations that can be placed at people's workplaces so that people have the opportunity to charge their vehicles at the workplace. Conventional wisdom is that most people that drive electric vehicles will be able to charge their vehicle and will charge their vehicle most of the time at home. But from an equity lens, there are many people, especially in densely populated New Jersey, that do not have that opportunity. They don't have private homes, they don't have driveways, they don't have the ability to charge at home. So one of the ways to help out in that situation is workplace charging. So people that drive to work with their electric vehicle can plug in when they get to work, charge up during the day, and have enough power to get back and forth. So we have a program, it's called Empower, which is one of the more interesting acronyms that I've come across. It stands for Equitable Mobility Powering Opportunities for Workplace Electrification Readiness, which is a mouthful, so obviously it's a lot easier to say Empower. And the way this works is that we have an online pledge that we would like, all organizations to sign on to. And by signing on to that pledge, we have the opportunity to work directly with you at no cost to you to provide advice and planning assistance to you as the employer, or it also, if there's employee groups that are interested in this, we can work it that way as well. So we can provide technical advice on what's necessary to put a workplace charging program together. And then once the charging stations are installed at the workplace, we can help out with publicity and ongoing technical assistance and operational assistance. So there's information about this on our website, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that as we go forward. Next slide. Two of the other programs I wanted to highlight for this call, it's actually part of, both of these programs are part of an East Coast Zero Emission Vehicle Corridor Plan, which roughly goes along I-95. New Jersey is the center of these two programs. One is actually New Jersey and North, and the other one is New Jersey and South. And through these programs, we are planning zero emission infrastructure along the highway and adjacent areas of the highway. And this would be for battery electric charging for commercial vehicles. So we're talking about medium and heavy duty trucks here. It would be battery electric charging and potentially also hydrogen fuel cell refueling opportunities. And there's a lot of people involved, a lot of different groups involved with these two programs, but the main function of the New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition and these programs are to look at the equity implications of it. We are encouraging the organizers of this and the planning folks to the extent possible to put heavy duty commercial charging opportunities at existing truck stop locations and not to have to start over at new locations. And one of the main reasons for this is that those are facilities that have existing truck traffic now. We do not want to be encouraging trucking in neighborhoods along highways that do not have it now. And other considerations along those lines. And one of the things we're doing now is putting a survey together that we'd like to socialize with various community organizations, individuals, and groups to get input on what the scoring criteria should be for these sites. What factors are important to you as local community members and what should be considered as we prioritize the potential sites. Now, the equity considerations, I understand, are about 25% of the overall scoring for a particular site. Technical considerations are among the other things that need to be part of that plan. But our part of it is to build the equity and the environmental justice aspects into it. So that survey will be posted on our website shortly. There's more information about these programs on our website available now. And if folks are interested in participating with us in this in these two important programs, please reach out to us. Next slide. Now, I just want to cover some concepts of e-mobility. Tandy discussed some of this, so I'll go through it relatively quickly. But you know, we hear this term thrown around a lot these days. What is e-mobility? To me, it means equitable shared transportation using electric vehicles, and that covers a lot, obviously. But I'm just going to throw out some of these concepts and, you know, with the hopes of discussing it after these presentations. So the mobility options as part of e-mobility should reduce greenhouse gas and other air pollution in overburdened communities. And, you know, we talk about greenhouse gas reduction, but that doesn't really help an overburdened community. You know, that's good for the planet overall, but it's not necessarily reducing PM10 or asthma or cancer causing local pollution. But that's what this needs to be all about. And obviously, it's also to provide additional modes of transportation for people that do not have other options. Next slide. And here's some of the models that are generally within the e-mobility definition: micro transit, car sharing, shuttle service, e-mobility hubs where different modes can be brought together in perhaps battery charging stations at these centralized locations. All of these need to be considered, and all of them need to be considered within the framework of community engagement, so that the actual needs of the residents in those situations are considered and brought into the process. Next slide. So first mile, last mile, you hear that phrase thrown around a lot also. It really is what it says it is. It addresses the challenge of moving from one's home or workplace to a transportation hub and then back again, first mile and last mile. Because there's often a disconnect between where those transit routes are and where people actually where people are and where they want to go. So microtransit comes in, and that's the role of it. And I'll mention that first mile, last mile is all about people movement, but it's also about goods movement. You hear that phrase a lot with folks like, you know, FedEx and UPS. You know, they need to deploy, and they are deploying more efficient means of moving the goods from the warehouse or the distribution center to the location that they need to get to. And these modes of transit usually use advanced technology, which is an interesting wrinkle on all of this. On-demand services, trip monitoring, route planning, and all of that. All of that is automated now, and it's a lot more complicated than it seems on the surface. But again, the whole goal of it is to make transportation more accessible and more convenient for those that are underserved by traditional public transit. Next slide. So as we were working through the Go Trenton project and bringing that to the street, there was a lot of challenges, and I know Ben could probably carry on about these all day. And I'm not going to focus on them right now. I'm going to highlight some of them. but the infrastructure requirements, the high initial cost of the electric vehicles and of the infrastructure, concerns over range and charging times and how that will affect the operation of the service. I just mentioned the technological limitations, data management, data security, how to charge people if you are going to charge for the service, whether credit cards will be the way to go or not, or whether the population that's being served, whether they even have credit cards or not. Those are challenges. And public acceptance. It is an unfamiliar situation. These GEM cars are very cool, but some people might be a little, they're just unfamiliar. Next slide. Additional challenges include regulatory and policy issues. How do these vehicles operate? We have a neighborhood electric vehicle. Are they allowed on, what streets are they allowed on? Where can they not go? Adjusting fleet size and balancing supply and demand. How do we need operational history to know how to do that. So that's one of the challenges of starting up an operation such as this. Again, first mile, last mile, and integrating with existing transit systems. I think Matt touched upon that a little bit in his opening. That's something else that needs to be discussed, and working together with the public transit agencies like New Jersey Transit. Then there's initial user resistance. Again, the GEM vehicles are a little, they're cool, but they're, people might have concerns over comfort. New drivers, I know they're professional drivers, but these are just issues that I know have come up over time. And then more importantly, at the moment, and this is where the Go Trenton project is at right now, is how do we scale it up and how do we assure long-term sustainability of the program? From an environmental perspective, it's extremely sustainable, but from a financial perspective, we need additional revenue streams. Should it be subsidized? How can it be subsidized? By whom? Grants, funding, all of these issues are being discussed now, and these are all challenges that have to be overcome. So, the Go Trenton program is a wonderful program, as we could tell by its initial success, but how do we keep it going? Those are things that have to be discussed. And I believe that's my last slide. So, Ben, you could advance. Yep, there we go. Thank you for your time. Thanks for listening. And back to you, Matt.
Chuck, again, fantastic presentation. I learned a huge amount and really appreciate the wisdom that you can share. I want to sign up for the Empower program. We've got chargers out front, and I know that some of our employees are already using it almost daily. But that's, I'm an influencer. I'm not a decider. So I'll try and influence that decision.
I can assure you that the pledge is one of those no commitment pledges. So right. It's very easy to sign.
Well, help is always good to get. I'm aware that we're pressed for time. I want to move right on to Cheryl Kastrenakis. So Cheryl, the TMA. And you're still muted.
Okay. Are you seeing my screen here?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. I enjoyed all those presentations, and I'm going to take this, shift directions a little bit here, because we've heard a lot about micromobility, and this is going to follow through. But what I want to do first is sort of shift it, looking at Mercer County, and take a look at the transportation options available and how well it works forgetting where we really need to go. Because microtransit is definitely a solution, but we want to make sure that we're looking at things that it's not a solution looking for a problem. We want to see the problem and find the right solution. So what I want to do is, before I look at the transportation infrastructure that's out there, I want to take a look at some of the demographic data, because access can depend very much on your circumstances. So, if you have a car, if you have multiple cars, if you're going to New York City, it's kind of a piece of cake in order to get around in Mercer County. That's really pretty nuts. I'm sorry, I think I just changed my view here. It's pretty easy to get around. So I wanted to focus in, although there's problems in all, there's going to be areas of need in every community. I want to focus in a little bit here on Trenton, just see what it is that we're really looking at. So when we look at Trenton's data, you can see that, close to 25% of the people are living below the poverty line. If you look at how they commute to work, 8% of the people are using public transit, which is pretty darn good for this area. A lot carpool, which from the work that we have done in warehousing, we know that that's a very common way for commuting. Still quite a number that are driving alone. But if you look at the no vehicle available data, there's 11% in the city of Trenton that have absolutely no vehicle available. And that compares to, let me look at this information here, it's only 4.6% in the county. So there's a much greater need in Trenton for people to have other options outside of driving. And then this information I find interesting, I don't think it's going to be surprising to anyone, that the more cars you have, this is the work from home data that's on the bottom, the more cars you have, the more likely you are to be able to work from home. So the people who lack transportation have the most need to be able to get out to the workplace. So that kind of sort of sets where many people are at. So now I want to look at, this is a picture of what's available in Mercer County. And really, if you look at it, it doesn't look bad. I mean, the blue are the New Jersey Transit routes. There are numerous routes. This picks up a little bit on what Matt talked about early on. It has that north-south projection. Trenton's the hub. Every kind of thing kind of moves out. And we have also on this map the services that are not run by New Jersey Transit. So you can see the Route 130 connection is green. Those are the service that will take you to the warehouse district. The same thing with the Z line. Those are called JARC services. And I think it's important to know, when you look at the map, there are no New Jersey Transit services that can get you to those warehouse districts. Now, if you want to get to retail, which is a great area for employment, you can get there. I mean, pretty much from anywhere in the county, or from most areas in the county, and certainly from Trenton, you can hit the Quaker Bridge Mall, Hamilton Marketplace, Market Fair, which are obviously important for shopping, but also for employment. Some of the higher paying jobs, and certainly the growth industry, is out in the warehouses. And not that that's the only place that people need to go to, but it's certainly an important focus. So for that reason, Mercer County has picked up these JARC routes. The Route 130 connection came first. It traveled all the way up to the 8A warehouse. It may be a long ride, but it's a ride that works really pretty well. And the main thing that it does, it can get people in the early morning out to those shifts. We're also doing expansion this year. The county was willing to commit additional funding to add an additional bus. So it's a more robust service than it had been in the past, which is really terrific. The Z line was created. Now it's been operating. This July is 10 years it's been operating. It starts at Hamilton Marketplace. We've heard a lot about that last mile connection, and that is really what this does. It made sense for it to begin at Hamilton Marketplace, and even though it's not quite last mile, it's last 5 miles actually. We chose that location because it's close to Robbinsville. It's close to where the Amazon facilities are being built. There's quite a number of businesses there. It's not just Amazon. There are many in Northeast and Matrix Business Park there. But the reason it was selected there is because there were about 81 buses a day between New Jersey Transit and 130 connection that were already coming to that location. That provided access for almost the entire county to be able to get to jobs at those locations. So it's a key commitment that the county has made. They fund 50% of the 130 connection. Amazon's paying for most of the service, but the county also participates somewhat in the Z line funding as well. So of course, I'm focusing on employment because obviously it's a really key place that people need to go to, but it obviously is not the only place that that people need to go to. And one other area I just want to mention, as I'm talking about the services to the warehouses, the buses go there, and there's about 45% of the businesses are located within a half mile of a bus stop, which is still a bit of a distance, but it's probably even more when you start to consider the sidewalks that are missing from that area. So warehousing is an area that is not easily served by public transit. So I don't want to completely throw New Jersey Transit under the bus. It is tough to be able to serve it with fixed route service. But again, jobs are not the only place that people need to go to. I think Tanvi mentioned how some of the top locations were Task and one of the food stores. Actually, before I get to that, I jumped ahead for myself because I also wanted to focus in here on, I'll get to the food in a minute, but zero households. And you can see here where the concentrations are. It is largely in Trenton, which is not a surprise based on the data that I've said to you, but you can also see there's a pocket up in the East Windsor and Hightstown area, another area where there's a high number of folks without cars. And if you look in that area, and you can see again the blue are the New Jersey Transit bus routes, there is no public transit other than the Route 130 connection in that area. Other pockets you'll see largely concentrated in Princeton, which probably highlights the student population there, and Pennington, which is the municipality with the highest concentration of older adults, and that probably also explains fewer number of vehicles there as well. So again, the people who sometimes need transit the most are the areas that don't have it, as shown with the East Windsor area. So now I'm going to move on to the food areas, because again, something critical, something that maybe microtransit can be a solution for. Trenton is the one municipality that from DCA was designated as a food desert. We have mapped here grocery stores and also the smaller bodegas. Obviously, there's a lot more smaller grocery stores, not a place, typically more expensive, not a place you can get your full groceries at. There's the Food Bazaar in the more southern portion of Trenton, and there's another fuller grocery store up there along 31. So these are areas that, if you look at it, yes, New Jersey Transit is there. You can see local bus. They were not remiss in not serving at all. However, just because they can serve it doesn't mean that it works well for every person. It is difficult when you're doing food shopping. You may need multiple buses to be able to get to where you need to go. It may not make an ideal situation for using public transit, though there are opportunities there to use it if needed. So where does all this take us? I'm going to focus again here on employment, although you can substitute in other things for it. We have there's a mismatch is the bottom line. We have employee home origins. There's public transit that can get to a lot of places, but sometimes the destination and the service hours don't match, especially when you're talking about shift workers. It may not be there at very early morning, very late night for the part-time hours that you're working because midday service is less. So you can't necessarily reach all your job destinations. And what that ends up doing is it really shrinks the job market for employees and the labor market for employers. But we can substitute in here, not just job destinations. We could be substituting in for that, healthcare, as we talked about, food, grocery stores. So there's a lot of things. The bottom line is transportation that doesn't work for people limits access to opportunity. And that's what we're really talking about here, because we're talking about transportation, we're talking about people, and being able to have them be able to have access to opportunity so they can live the fulfilling life that they deserve. So having said all of that, we have an imperfect system because it does, as good as it is, and as much opportunity as there is out there, it's still limiting access to opportunity for all. So the question is, can microtransit help create better access? And I think, the answer is yes, it can definitely help. And I want to just kind of go through this list of ways that I think it can help. And I hope this is just a jumpstart for a larger conversation on how it might be able to help. And I can talk a little bit about this graphic as well. But I think for microtransit to help create better access, it needs to be able to connect to existing transit options. We needed to fill the gaps in the transit system, because as you can see, it can go a lot of places, but not everywhere. And as Tanya even referred, it's, we want to get more people short distances. So microtransit is not a long distance solution. It's not going to be the 130 connection going from Trenton all the way to up to Cranberry and further. It serves as a first mile, last mile solution. It can be tailored solutions for people with diverse needs, so people with disabilities, seniors, or shift workers. And a very important aspect to this, because public transit can often be necessarily focused on ridership and having to get the most ridership, microtransit can really help address a coverage objective, which means it meets people's needs, even if ridership will be lower. So, who is not being covered? Where does it not make sense for public transit to run? So those are some considerations in some areas that microtransit can really help create better access. And I have this graph on the bottom that I had found, actually, I think it was through a report through SEPTA, but it's saying what makes a good bus. And everything on the right is what makes a good bus. It's fast is better than slow, be as direct as possible, serve well-defined markets, operate to and from strong anchors. It's all going on pretty much, you're avoiding deviating from the most direct path unless there's a compelling reason. Virtually all passengers are going to prefer to get places faster rather than slower. Service configured around clearly defined markets and stops. And then when you look on the left, not that this is microtransit exactly, but this is more of the idea. I mean, it does meander because it's picking up people, as where they're located. Although there are smart stops, it still creates larger deviations. There are alternative patterns. If that's what the demand is for. There's not a requirement to stay on main streets. It's more choices, not less. So they are both moving people. They operate differently, and they're going to help, I believe, in different ways. So that's how I'm going to end my presentation. Just some contact information for me, and let you know that we also have a mobility guide for all of Mercer County that is on our website, so that because we know that sometimes the issue is about communication and awareness of what's out there. So here in the guide, we try to list every opportunity that there was out there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and close with that. I think there's lots of opportunities, and look forward to having a really robust conversation.
Great. Thank you so much, Cheryl. And I'm looking forward to that conversation too. I thought we would have it as part of this moderated panel, but I understand that there's a chance to jump onto an open conversation with all of the participants. Ben?
Correct. I think Amisha is going to be giving us some instructions here, but I think I am supposed to say my conclusion remarks. Is that correct, Amisha or Karina?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to say my thing, and then Misha will give us some instructions for what to do. But like Matt said, thanks everyone. We have now a little bit over time, but we have plenty of time left in this breakout room to have some direct interaction with the panelists and each other. Thank everyone for the great questions in this important and engaging conversation. Please, like I said, hold your questions, and we can use them in this breakout room. We're about to give you directions for how to join us. And if you want to follow up on anything discussed today, you can reach out to me, anyone on the panel. We can share our information on the slides and share the slides. Like I said, or join us in the lounge for a conversation. Amisha is going to put the link for that in the chat. I want to once again thank our panelists, Matt as moderator, and Cheryl, Chuck, and Tandi as the panelists. Thank you so much for joining us today. And again, thanking our sponsors, NJM Insurance and NRG. And then finally, I would like to encourage you to check out our upcoming forum sessions. We have more today. We have a public transit session following this one, and then an accessibility session after that one. And then there's a whole other day tomorrow. You can join any that you'd like to right from the lobby.